I first noticed it one morning in early spring, and I'm telling you, it wasn't something I heard or saw, it was something I felt. A low, strange vibration humming right beneath the soles of my work boots, rising up from under the ground. At first, I thought, maybe it's just the fridge, maybe a neighbor's generator. But no, the air was still quiet. Just the strange, pulsing tremor under my meticulously kept lawn. I stepped onto the grass, put my palm right down on the soil near the big weeping willow. It buzzed like a lazy, mean hornet trapped in a jar. Most folks, they'd shrug that off, call it a restless night. But I'm not most folks. See, before I retired, I spent 30 years with one of the biggest pipeline contractors in the Southwest. My job wasn't just fixing things. It was catching the whispers of disaster before they became a headline. Corrosion, metal fatigue, pressure anomalies, illegal taps. I've seen vibrations like that turn a perfect suburban street into a crater wide enough to swallow a school bus. So no, I wasn't shrugging this one off. The problem? The Stonehaven Crossing Homeowners Association. I moved here 2 years ago after losing my wife. I needed quiet. I needed neat. The kind of place that looks like a stock photo for serenity. But underneath those trimmed hedges and matching mailboxes, there was an HOA with teeth, and at the head of the snake was Vivian Sterling. Vivian was exactly what her name conjured. Razor-sharp haircut, a tongue like a scalpel, and a moral superiority that hung in the air like cheap perfume. I watched her fine an elderly man $300 for letting his custom bluebird house interfere with the color palette harmony of the community. Still, I kept my head down, paid my dues on time, and avoided the monthly sermons. Until that morning my lawn started breathing. I dusted off my old kit, just a handheld geophone and a simple pressure gauge. More nostalgia than utility, really, until now. The next morning I was kneeling by my hedge, geophone pressed into the dirt, when I heard the click-clack of high heels on the gravel path. "Planning on digging up your yard, Mr. Jensen?" The voice was clipped, starched. Vivian. She stood there, arms folded, wearing a pressed cream polo and that red HOA badge she liked to flash like a sheriff's star. Her lips were tight like she was already chewing on a fine. "Just checking for gophers," I said, not looking up. "Gophers," she echoed. "Flat. Big ones," I replied, tapping the geophone gently. "With steel jackets and pressure faults." She didn't laugh, she rarely did. "This community has specific rules about unauthorized landscaping. If you are planning to trench or install anything, you'll need board approval and permits, immediately." "Not planning on digging, Vivian," I said, finally standing up. "Just listening." She stepped closer, peering at the equipment. "Whatever it is, I suggest you cease immediately before people get the wrong idea. We've had concerns in the past about overstepping personal property boundaries." There it was. The warning wrapped up tight in neighborly courtesy, the HOA's signature move. I offered a polite fake smile. "Of course. Just enjoying the quiet." I lay awake that night listening. Around midnight, the humming returned. Louder, and beneath it, something new. A faint, low gurgle, like water or gas under too much pressure, moving through a pipe too narrow, too old, or just plain wrong. That was when I knew. Something down there was failing. Cinematic confrontation. The HOA meeting, the next Thursday I walked into the clubhouse meeting. The whole room reeked of control and lemon pledge. I brought my binder, annotated maps, old photos of unmarked contractor vans, and my preliminary geophone notes. When my name was called, I walked to the podium. Vivian gave me that tight smile, the one that said, "I've already decided this doesn't matter, but let's hear it anyway." "Good evening. I'm Tom Jensen. I want to bring up a concern about underground infrastructure. Specifically, some vibrations I've been tracking near my yard, the community garden, and especially right under this clubhouse." I paused. I used to work in pipeline safety. "Based on what I'm detecting, I believe we have a degraded line down there, corroded piping or poor insulation." Vivian leaned forward, elbows on the lacquered table. Every syllable she spoke was amplified by the microphone. "Mr. Jensen," she said, cutting through the silence, "are you suggesting there is some kind of malfunction beneath our community grounds?" "I'm suggesting," I replied, my voice steady, "that we have a reason to investigate. If a utility line, water, gas, anything is aging or improperly maintained, it could pose a serious risk." She straightened her posture, like a cobra rising from a basket. Her eyes, usually cool, held a flicker of something close to real anger. "With all due respect," she said, a laugh track of soft chuckles floating up from the back rows, "this community is built to code. All infrastructure is city permitted and up to date. And if you're detecting vibrations, perhaps you should check your home appliances. My jaw tightened, but I held steady. I'm asking the board to allow a professional, non-invasive scan. I'll even pay for it myself. We don't authorize private investigations on common land, she snapped. And we especially don't entertain conspiracy theories at public meetings. I've investigated post-incident sites where people died because someone ignored signs just like this, I said, voice dropping low. I'm trying to prevent a disaster. Noted, she said, tone clipped and final. The board will consider your concerns and respond appropriately. Is there anything else? I stood there, binder in my hands, staring at her. She didn't look back. No applause, no questions, just the quiet rustle of khaki pants and crossed arms. As I walked out, I saw a couple of neighbors quickly look away. I was radioactive now. The next few weeks, I spent them digging for the truth. I pulled up city records, cross-referenced utility easement maps. What I found made my blood run cold. This clubhouse was sitting directly above a sealed section of conduit, an old private gas feeder line from decades ago. Long since decommissioned, except it hadn't been removed. I called an old colleague, Manny, at the State Utilities Commission. I think they bypassed the city system to save money, I told him, and now they're sitting on a pressurized ghost line under a public building. A few days later, a subtle clue. I was walking past the clubhouse and saw it, a hairline fracture along the concrete base of the west garden wall. I crouched down, touched it. It was warm. Concrete doesn't get warm like that unless something beneath it is radiating heat, gas. This wasn't theory anymore. It was happening. I compiled my readings, photos, and diagrams into a neat PDF and sent it straight to Manny. 2 days later, a young green inspector named Joel met me at dawn. He brought a gas detector and a thermal scanner. Joel crouched by the wall. The sniffer beeped once, then again. Low levels of methane. The handheld thermal sensor showed a narrow line of increased surface temperature, running in a straight path toward the community garden. Joel looked at me, a kid seeing a monster for the first time. This isn't normal, he muttered. This is sketchy as hell. The next morning, the formal notice arrived on my doorstep. A $500 fine for unauthorized surveillance. I laughed out loud. They were panicking, and that meant I was getting close. It happened just before dawn on a Wednesday. The air smelled off, not quite gas, but a sharp metallic bitterness. I walked across the street, and there it was. A line of scorched grass, a perfect crescent cutting across the garden. The soil was yellow, dry, dead. I pressed my palm into the ground. It was hot, not warm, combustion hot. I took pictures, recorded a video, backed it all up to the cloud. Then I walked directly to the clubhouse, slipped the HOA's last threat letter into an envelope, scrolled across it in red ink, documented proof of active leak, 5:42 a.m., and taped it to their front door. I made sure the security camera saw me do it. By noon, maintenance crews, unmarked vans of course, arrived. They started digging exactly where I documented the burn line. I watched from my upstairs window as one of them waved frantically. They found the leak, filled the hole halfway and left. They tried to bury it. That night, Joel called me back. Tom, that line beneath the clubhouse. It was decommissioned in 1998. Someone tapped into it illegally. They've been piping gas through a ghost line for over a decade. Someone cut corners, I said quietly. Someone wanted to save HOA money. Get ready, Joel warned. We're sending an official team tomorrow. The explosion and the reckoning. 2 days later, at 6:38 a.m., a State Public Utilities Commission sedan rolled slowly through Stonehaven Crossing. Elaine Prater, the lead inspector, met me at the curb. She was all business, late 30s, boots that had seen more than HOA potlucks. They're not a recognized utility operator, she told me, folding her notepad. That line was never permitted for private residential gas distribution. We don't need their damn permission. Her team quickly found the proof. Warped metal at shallow depth, erratic heat signatures, and a direct gas leak registering 78 ppm methane. Within an hour, orange barricades were up, and a stop work order was duct taped to the clubhouse door. Vivian Sterling arrived at 9:03 a.m. She stormed the barricade, phone held like a weapon. This is a public overstep. You're trespassing. Elaine calmly held up a laminated warrant. Ma'am, this investigation falls under state jurisdiction. We've confirmed you reactivated a defunct feeder line without authorization. That line is over 30 years old. Vivian's face flushed a deep, furious red. I stood a few yards back watching her kingdom crack open. The team dug, and the smell hit us, a sharp, sour tang of gasoline and metal. Then the pipe came into view, rusted, pitted, and held together in one section with a makeshift plastic sleeve zip-tied around a fracture, sealed with a thick coat of rubber cement. A grotesque shortcut. They radioed the command center for a shutoff. The response was terrifying. Pressure regulators non-responsive. Flow control override not detected. Manual shutoff required. Location unknown. In layman's terms, they had no control. The gas was still flowing, still building. The explosion didn't give us a siren. It came at 4:12 p.m., the way bad things often do. Suddenly, violently. First, a deep rumble from the earth, rattling windows. I saw the clubhouse roof lift, almost float for a split second. Then a white-orange burst of flame tore through the center. The windows shattered outward like shotgun blasts. A bloom of fire erupted skyward with a concussive roar that knocked me backward. The roof caved in. I scrambled to my feet, ears ringing, watching smoke curl into the blue sky like a black flag raised in surrender. Vivian stood on her porch, motionless, staring at the carnage that used to be her crown jewel. Then the crowd turned. "You covered this up!" Someone screamed. "You fined him for catching it!" Another yelled. A woman named Janine, the one Vivian had once targeted over a bluebird house, walked right up to her. "You ignored the warnings," she said, trembling. "You called him crazy!" Vivian blinked rapidly. I didn't know it was that serious." "Yes, you did," Janine said, her voice cold. "You just didn't care. That night I walked past the ruins. Vivian sat on the curb,